ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि.
We welcome all the Shri Mahants, Kotaris, Tanedars, Swamijis, Balasanths, visitors and viewers for this Vaakyartha Sadhas conducted by Balasanths of Nithyananda Gurukul. Today we will be speaking on what Swamiji spoke in today's satsang. And now we will be chanting the 15th verse of Ishavasya Upanishad.
हिरण्मयेन पात्रेण सत्यस्यापि हितं मुखं तत्त्वं पूषन्नपावृणो सत्यधर्माय दृष्टये.
I have a question. What is seeking?
What I feel as seeking is like how Swamiji told today, when you just have that continuous love towards the super consciousness and just look up into that super consciousness and just believe that you have to become that one day, that is what I feel as seeking.
Just adding to his point, what I feel is seeking is constantly aligning all of your actions, words and deeds to the purpose of your life. Whatever it may be, aligning all of your actions to the purpose of your life is what I feel is seeking.
Okay, what I understand as seeking is when you raise your super consciousness inside you, you will be able to recharge the consciousness inside you. That is what I feel seeking.
What I understand as seeking is you recognizing your consciousness as seeking.
Okay, I have a question. Now all of you are saying about about seeking, like having love towards the super consciousness and recognizing yourself. But Swami, when he was speaking about seeking, he told that throwing tantrum of cosmos. So how is all this related?
See, what I feel is, even in the Karma webinar, Swamiji is telling the ferociousness, you have to change everything inside and outside you. And once he also told that throwing tantrum on cosmos is seeking. And today he also told reinventing a whole biomemory to be just free from everything is seeking. So what I understood from all this is, continuously when you really raise in love with super consciousness, as Swamiji said, like ready to change anything just to be there with the super consciousness. Again reinventing yourself. So what I feel is, when you reinvent yourself, obviously you'll have few questions like what am I and all those. So that is also equal. That is what Swamiji meant as throwing tantrum on cosmos, where you will directly, the cosmic mother has to come to you and attend to you. So what I feel is, when you keep reinventing yourself, you will start seeking for more in life. Like how Buddha, the moment he saw a dead person, a diseased person and everything, he just started questioning the whole thing. So that is only throwing tantrum. So obviously the cosmos attended to him and he became Buddha. So what I feel is, continuously when we reinvent ourselves with our ferociousness, when we really want to be like Swamiji and want to reach a space of enlightenment, that is what I feel is real seeking is.
Just adding to a point, what I feel is seeking is like when you're ready to align your actions and be ready to do anything what it takes for you to achieve what you feel is ultimate. So naturally, when you are ready to do everything, when you're not able to get something, what I feel is when you can throw a tantrum at the cosmos, you will immediately start throwing a tantrum. What I feel, when you really want something and you're not able to get it, and when you align your actions, even then it doesn't come to you, immediately what I feel is you start throwing a tantrum, you start questioning the whole thing. So this is how I feel is throwing a tantrum and seeking is relative.
I think the point, what I feel is that when you throw tantrum on cosmos, what I understand as throwing tantrum on cosmos is like you questioning the very root
of existence itself. Having like some basic questions like what is the purpose of my life? Why am I the way am I? So all these questions, when you're continuously questioning, that is what is seeking. Because when you're questioning like that, automatically when you get an answer, like when you're questioning it from your very being, then the answers you get will just be your experience. So when you get such high experiences, then automatically your cognition also gets matured more and more. So if you see like how Swamiji defined today also, is the decision your being takes to awaken itself. So even when you throw tantrum on the cosmos, then automatically because of the experiences you get, you'll decide to expand yourself more and more only. So what I feel is that all of them are related and all of them are telling the same thing only.
What I feel is like when you are seeking for something, you have a purpose to seek for. So like for example, if you are seeking for inner awakening, like how Swamiji told, life just is ready to give you anything. But life is seeing whether you really want it or not. That's why life is presenting many obstacles when you come to inner awakening. So what I feel is like the seeking inside you is like when you throw a tantrum on the cosmos. When you say the cosmos, I will make it to this inner awakening, and you will just be deciding in that space. When you go with that flow of life, you just be in that seeking. So when you start throwing a tantrum on the cosmos, you get closer to what is your purpose.
I have a question. Today in Satsang, Swamiji said that like even the God's grace is not much in our life, but seeking for the God's grace will be the best part in our life. But I have a question. Even for us to seek, there should be God's grace, right? That only when the divine intervention of the God's grace is there, we can even start seeking for the God's grace, right?
What I feel is like Swamiji told the same thing even for enlightenment. When you know that you're enlightened and when you already become enlightened, there's nothing else for you. So you already know that that is you. So like there's nothing after that in your life. But when you have the glimpse of enlightenment, and from that when you start seeking towards the super consciousness, that is when you raise in love with the super consciousness, that time you know that there's a purpose and you just seek for that. So that happens for a longer period of time, and you can just enjoy that part of your life. So what I feel is like when you have the master's grace or when you have God's grace, it's like just you have the God's grace because he's just gracing you and that's all over. But when you seek for the God's grace, when God just gives you a glimpse of what is his grace, then when you seek towards that, you just enjoy that entertainment in your life and you're just so happy about that.
But once Swamiji also said that we can even have, like we can put our attention on him only when he decides to put our attention on us. So even our seeking for us to have the God's grace can happen only with his grace, right?
What I feel is God is always ready to flow through us and open up his possibilities with us. But only because of our incompletions, we are not allowing his grace to flow through us. So what I feel is, if we just start seeking towards him, we'll naturally see that God's grace is already upon us because his grace is always on us. All we have to do is allow his grace to flow through us and seek for it.
What I feel is like always God's grace is there with us. But when Swamiji said that at the end you get God's grace, like after doing all your tapas and all your seeking, then the God just comes and like raises you and makes you also God. So at that moment it won't be as exciting and as blissful as when you are seeking. Because when you are seeking, you are connecting to the divine and you are flowing towards in that direction.
Adding a point, only if, like as he told, only when the divine intervention is there, only then the seeking can even start in us. So if you see, throughout God's grace is with us. So but only when we let him flow through us and only when we reinvent ourselves, we'll even understand that God's grace is continuously flowing through us. Otherwise we might start like feeling that no, God's grace is not flowing through me and all different things. But if you see, only when you have that seeking inside you, you'll even look forward in your life like how much cosmos is just showering upon you and you'll enjoy the whole thing. So only when you have that seeking, you'll even be able to enjoy. Otherwise, even though how much ever God showers on you, you'll be going on looking forward for something which you think you'll not have and all those. So what I feel is, even though we have God's grace, it's very important for us to have the seeking to even enjoy it.
question. Today Swamiji was speaking about raising in love with consciousness. So can you tell what does Swamiji mean by raising in love with consciousness?
What I feel is like when Swamiji said consciousness, he meant like the core consciousness inside you, which is the source of energy and all the bliss which is just carrying you towards the ultimate purpose of your life. So when you just start loving that part of you, when you just start flowing into bliss, and that part of you just awakens and you are just able to seek in your life. So like how Swamiji told once, if you just wake up, like when you are in the space of seeking, you'll just wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start your yoga, puja, and you'll just start meditating. So what I feel is like that energy inside you will just be awakened when you start loving that super consciousness inside you.
Just adding to his point, what I feel is what Swamiji meant by saying that raising in love with the super consciousness is like when we start understanding that the consciousness is what is doing everything around us. It is like the consciousness fills everything. We are not anything around us, but we are the consciousness. And like everything else is the instrument through which consciousness flows. Like this, when we start getting into more and more understandings, what I feel is we'll start falling in love with consciousness. We'll start understanding, oh, consciousness is so vast and so great. When you start getting understanding, what I feel is you start falling in love with it. So naturally, when you start falling in love with it, you'll start seeking it. You'll want, to experience consciousness. So naturally, at that point, the intense seeking will be awakened in you. So this is what I feel what Swamiji meant by saying falling in love with your super consciousness.
Adding a point, if you see like in your life, whatever you are feeling more connected with, whatever you love the most, you'll be moving towards that only. Like the highest experience you think you had, all the actions, whatever you do will be aligned to that only. So when you start having the deep love towards the super consciousness, then automatically you'll just be inspired to move towards it. So all your actions, all your thoughts, feelings, everything will be connected with that. So this is what I understood when Swamiji told us raising in love with super consciousness.
What I feel is basically like when you know that everything around you and the things which is around you, everything is consciousness and everything is moved by consciousness, and whatever you see, everything is being filled by consciousness, and there'll be nothing, you'll have that feeling of nothing to be lost or nothing to be gained, because you will know that you are everything and everything is you. So at that time you will raise in love with the whole super consciousness.
I have a question with what Swamiji told today. He told that when you don't take responsibility for your thoughts, it becomes fantasy. What did Swamiji mean by saying that?
In one of the satsangs, Swami is speaking about creating space and taking responsibility for it. So he gave an example that if you want to build a huge building, and you just think that it's going to be this big, that big, and this many people can be sitting in that, and the huge stage should be that, and you just not move even an inch to do anything. So it will be just a fantasy, because you will not put your thoughts into action. So at that time, the thoughts which you have will only be fantasy, because there's no you'll not make your thoughts into reality. You'll just be fantasy, and you'll just be fantasizing about it.
Adding to her point, see, as Swamiji said, when you're not taking any responsibility for your thinking, that's complete fantasy, because you'll just be thinking for your whole life, and you'll not do anything in your life. But instead, if you just start taking some responsibility for what you think as your life is, then it becomes a vision, is what Swamiji said. So whatever visualization or the thinking you have, when you start taking responsibility for that to make it happen into reality in your life, that is what I think. As Swamiji explained, the status quo life, like where people think, they just live in fantasy, thinking that one day something will happen and everything in their life will just get fixed, just because of something will happen and suddenly all problems will be fixed. So that's how there's a status quo, as Swamiji explained. So what I feel is when we decide, when our inner core decides to just have decision to be free, that is what I feel is seeking. So as Swamiji told, when we have that seeking, you will start having the visions, which means like your visualizations, you will start making it happen to reality.
Just adding to a point, What I feel is what Swamiji meant by saying, when you don't take responsibility for your thoughts, it becomes fantasy. It's like, for example, you want to build a huge house for yourself and your family, but instead of taking up responsibility and seeing what else needs to be done for building the house, if you just think, I'm just going to build this house, it must be this many acre big, and it's going to be has this many floors, I must get all this furniture for this. Just making a big blueprint for it and just planning for the whole thing, but not taking any responsibility, but just thinking that one day something will just happen, I'll win a lottery and I'll get all the money and the house will be built. Being in this space, what I feel is what Swamiji said is not taking responsibility for your thoughts becomes fantasy. This example, when you don't take responsibility for building that house will become a fantasy of yours. You start thinking, yes, one day something will happen, suddenly I'll get everything whichever I need to build the house. Instead of taking responsibility, this is what you'll be doing. So this is what I feel is what Swamiji meant by saying, when you don't take up responsibility for your thoughts, it becomes a fantasy.
I have a question. Today morning Satsang Swamiji told, rediscovering your biomemory seeking. What did he mean by that?
What I feel is what Swamiji meant by saying that is like, for example, now we might think that something is the ultimate for us. For now, maybe you might be thinking that money is the ultimate for my life. For me, all I need is money. So at this cognition, we keep moving. At a point, we will feel that maybe money is not the ultimate for me. Maybe something is there above money. Maybe health is the ultimate thing for our life. But when we start feeling that, when we think, no, that's not my ultimate, and when you don't reinvent yourself and start taking decisions for health, but just be stagnant and just continue working for money, you won't have any more seeking for money. You'll only want to seek for health, but you won't do it. You will just think, no, what is the use of health? You won't be able to even convince yourself. Even if you convince yourself, you will start becoming lazy to take up decisions for health. So this is what I feel what Swamiji meant by saying reinventing your biomemory is seeking.
What I feel is yes, because all the great truths, only if you are taking decision to live all that, it will become into reality. Unless and until you live it, all of those will be fantasy. You can think that, okay, I have to be Advaita with all my friends and all that. But once after they have, if they do something which you are liking, you will put up a fight with them instead of thinking about what you thought before about Advaita. So even the knowledge about Advaita, everything will become fantasy unless and until you live up to that.
Just adding to a point, what I feel is, yes, because all the truths are going to become a reality for you only when you start living them. We might know many truths, but for example, if we take up responsibility, we might start thinking, yes, I understand responsibility. From tomorrow, I'll start taking up responsibility for everybody in my office, and I'll make sure that everyone does all their work. But tomorrow, when you see that somebody is not doing their work properly, or they've taken a break without telling you, or they've done something like this, when they have done something like this, immediately you will start becoming inconvenient. What is this? They're not doing what I want. I'm only responsible for this. What is the use of them being here? And you will stop taking responsibility for the person. You will know I'm not going to take up responsibility for it. So what I feel is, even though if you know about responsibility, at that point you won't be living it. So it will only stay as a fantasy in you. You may be fantasizing about the truth that, yes, when I become responsible, everyone will start respecting me and they'll give me more and more responsibility, and one day I'll become CEO of office. You might keep fantasizing like this about everything, all the truths you know, but unless you start living them, what I feel is they won't become into your reality.
What I feel is when you first know about a truth in your life, and then when you just start thinking that you should live this truth, it comes as a visualization, and you just start visualizing that you are going to live this truth. But when you keep on just postponing that, oh, I'll live it later, or okay, no need of living, then it just becomes an imagination, because you don't think that you're going to live it. So it just becomes an imagination, and slowly it just disappears and becomes nothing. So what I feel is only when you take responsibility for that visualization when it comes to you, then only it can become your reality.
I have a question. See, fantasy is nothing but the things that you think and you don't do in the reality level. But whatever you think, Swami told that whatever you ask for, everything is like aspiration which will happen one day. So will all the aspiration happen?
What I feel is yes, all the aspirations will be fulfilled because as Swamiji said, you will even take births till the time you have like the aspirations. So only when all aspirations are fulfilled in you, then only you can attain liberation. That's a law of life. So what I feel is yes, all your aspirations will be fulfilled, but it depends on the intensity and the interest you have. Swami on the days when he was speaking about the aspirations, Swami told that anything you aspire for with more more intensely with full interest, that you will get more quickly. For example, last year for Cambodia, before Cambodia, I wanted to go to Cambodia, but before that I aspired for so many things during the time also. But that didn't happen. But when I aspired for Cambodia, that happened. So what I feel is it depends upon the intensity and the interest you have. So what I feel is all the aspirations has to be fulfilled, but if you are intense and really interested in it, it'll happen.
Just adding to a point, what I feel is all the aspirations will one day turn into reality. But we have aspired for like thousands of things. So like until we start, realizing, like one day you'll start realizing that I wanted this many things, but I haven't taken responsibility for even one of these. So that time you just take up one of your aspirations and start working towards it for making it a reality for you. So what I feel is until you start taking up responsibility for the aspirations you aspired, it will stay as a fantasy.
What I feel is that, like, whatever aspirations you have, it will become reality. But it's based on how much responsibility you take for it and how much you enjoy it completely. Like, and from which context you aspire also. If you're continuously aspiring to live the truths from the right context of like really living and expanding, then you'll not postpone it. You'll just immediately start living it and you'll enjoy it more. Whereas when it comes later, when there's a situation, when life hits you, like however you aspire for it, but when life just presents you a situation where you need to live the truth, it might be like you might start doing it from a wrong context. Like for example, if someone like in an outer world school, they're telling you to walk in a line. If you're doing it from the context of being in integrity, it will be such a joy for you. Whereas when you're doing it from the context, oh, they're telling me, so I have to do it. Even there, your visualization is getting fulfilled of being in integrity, but still you are not enjoying it from that context. Right? So what I feel is that only when we take responsibility and aspire it from the right context, we'll be able to enjoy the whole thing.
What I feel is like giving an example. For example, if you aspire for someone to be in suffering, and then after that you just remember that whatever you give to others, that same thing will just happen to you. So when you just remember that suffering will come back to you, and you just decide to start showing love towards the super consciousness, and when you start deciding for life, then the suffering which will come back to you, the aspiration, it has to happen. That's the law of life. But it will happen to you in a very small way. Like you might just be walking and you will hit your leg on a small rock or something like that. So that suffering will be much more smaller, because when you decide to be in completion and decide for life from a even more stronger space, and when you believe that will only happen, then the suffering itself will just happen in a very tiny, minute way.
I have a question on what Lokamudra just said. I don't understand how it depends upon the context, because Swami said from any context you aspire, when the aspiration is being presented to you, when you get back to from the old context which you aspired for, obviously the situations will move quicker and you can move to the next level. He gave the example of health, wealth and all that. When you understand, when you feel that wealth is the most highest and you aspire for that, when wealth happens to you, you feel no, health is only higher. So obviously if you bring back the context what you had for as aspiration for wealth, immediately that will go off and you will be going to the higher level. So how does anyway from you aspiring from right context or wrong context anyway matters?
See, for example, if you go on fantasizing that you're like having a very great power or something, like your control, like for example, you're just fantasizing that or so many the people will be under your control. If you're going on fantasizing with it and not taking any responsibility, when that situation really happens, where people are all under you, like where they're all under your control, and that point you'll not be able to take that responsibility, because what you aspired for was just taking control over people. But when that really happens, you'll not be able to take control over them, or not be able to like guide them or take a leadership over there, because you'll not be having that context of responsibilism at all in you. So whereas when you, if you would have asked me the same thing, that you should be a leader for a very big group, and when that situation really happens, then automatically that responsibilism in you starts and you'll enjoy the whole thing. So this is what I meant by aspiring from the right context.
But then Swamiji said, even from the same example you gave, like for example, the aspiration to control people. So when the situation is presented to you, though you don't know how to handle, Swamiji said that the moment you remember, yes, this is happening because I have aspired for this. I don't know what is the context, but I'm doing it from this present moment because I know I have aspired for it. That moment when you realize that itself, when you recognize that there is some wrong context in you itself, it'll just vanish away, is what Swamiji said. So why do you even not need some context to aspire for something? See, if you're really moving to the next level, renouncing something, then you need a context to move to the higher level. But when you just aspire for such small thing without even any context, you don't need a context, is what I feel.
What I feel is, like for anything, whether you are doing the action itself or you are aspiring for something, what I feel is the context is the most important thing. Like even if you aspire for wealth, you can just aspire for building a bigger sangha or contributing it to Swamiji or attending more inner awakenings or something like that. So when you do it from that context, automatically the wealth will be showered upon you, and you won't want to like think that, oh, this wealth is bad for me or anything like that. But when you aspire it just for like buying a new car and showing off to everyone or anything like that, then you just understand after you waste all that money, whatever the cosmos shows you with, you just feel that is a wrong context and you just move on to the next thing. So what I feel is, like whatever context you might be having, it is playing a huge role in what you aspire for, because in this case you aspire for wealth in both, but the context from which you aspire also like changes the whole thing. I have a question. Today morning Swamiji told that when you recognize yourself, you will be recognized by everyone around you. What did Swamiji mean by saying that?
What I feel is what Swamiji meant by saying when you recognize yourself, everyone will start recognizing you, is when you decide to have a new cognition about you, and when you decide to start taking up responsibility and reinventing yourself, and when you start doing it, naturally others will start seeing the change in you. They'll all start seeing, oh, see, he used to be so inauthentic and irresponsible, but now he started taking up responsibility and he's become so authentic. So naturally when they start seeing the change in you, what I feel is they will also start to change their cognition about you. So what I feel, when you start recognizing yourself, others also will start changing their cognition about you and start recognizing you.
What I feel is, what I understand from what Swamiji said, that is, see, whatever way you perceive yourself, that is how the people around you will also be perceiving you, because they are all just reflection of you. So what I feel is, the moment you rise in love with your super consciousness, obviously you'll start reinventing your biomemory itself, because you are in complete seeking that you will do anything just for your super consciousness to be alive, like up with that joy. So what I feel is, when you just reinvent yourself, dropping all the past and renouncing everything, but just there for like Swamiji, like continuously again seeking and enriching a world, obviously people understand that you have reinvented yourself and you are again a new being to enrich them also. So what I feel is, when you drop your old perceptions and your past and just start reinventing yourself, renouncing everything, obviously the people around you, as their reflection of ourselves, they'll also start recognizing us as a new being.
Adding a point, what I understood when Swamiji told that is, it's like life is like a big mirror. So whatever, when the object in front of the mirror changes, obviously the reflection will also change, right? So same way, when you recognize yourself, when you reinvent yourself, then automatically people around you, the perceptions that people have about you will also automatically change. See, that's why if you see, like before coming to IA or any program, the way how people behave to you will be completely different, like how they behave after you attend the program. Like when so many people after they attend IA and go, everybody, like many people's perception which they have about them and all will completely change. The perception, the way they behave, everything will change. So what I understand is, like, when you recognize yourself, then automatically people will also start recognizing you and recognizing you. I have a question. Is raising in love with the super consciousness the same as Guru Bhakti?
What I feel is, yes, like it's not as same as that, but what I understand when Swamiji said is, like when you raise in love with the super consciousness, obviously you will want to reinvent yourself, right? So when you, as Swamiji told, the ferociousness to change everything inside you. So obviously you will have that ferociousness to change everything to be authentic, like how Swamiji wants you to be. So what I feel is, as he told on the Guru Purnima, that his Anyakara for all of us, the ultimate thing is we should realize ourselves as Shivoham. That is the only thing he was. So what I feel is, when you continuously have the seeking and raise in love with your super consciousness, you will start reinventing yourself to align to what Swamiji wants you to be.
What I feel is, basically, Master is a complete manifestation of the consciousness and the cosmic energy. So naturally, when we start falling in love with our own super consciousness, we will see that the Master is, our Master is a consciousness in manifestation. So naturally, when we start falling in love with our own super consciousness, we will start having a deep devotion and Guru Bhakti towards the Master. So what I feel is, falling in love with your super consciousness and having Guru Bhakti is both same.
Okay, just adding a point, what I feel is basically like when you're having the Guru Bhakti inside you, you'll even have that feeling of even having love towards even the super consciousness, because the only person who we can relate as per the whole super consciousness is Guru. So when you're having the Guru Bhakti, you'll automatically have love towards even, raise in love towards even the super consciousness.
But what I feel is that they both are not something like separate, both are same only. Because how, like, Swamiji is a direct, like, embodiment of cosmos only, right? The super conscious energy is Swamiji. So when you have that Guru Bhakti, that is like having love towards the Master, is having love towards the super conscious energy only, right? So what I feel is both are same only.
Okay, in today's satsang, Swamiji told one person will go and give the lecture about responsibility, but in his own home he won't take responsibility. But in one satsang, Swamiji told, what are you doing? You will speak what you are doing. How you won't do in action.
What I feel is, what Swamiji meant by saying that is, that when a person goes out on a stage and speaks to a whole, like a big crowd of people about taking up responsibility and keeping the country clean or cleanliness, when they start speaking about it, just like how Swamiji told, they start learning how to organize a group and how to with the whole group getting the thing done, how to clean up the area when the whole group is around them. But when they are alone in their home, or when they're just walking on the street, when they see like all rubbish around them, they will start thinking that no, I can't do this alone, I need a whole group around me. Only when I start getting a group around me, I'll be able to do this. So naturally, instead of taking up responsibility, they will start thinking that I need a whole group, only then I can take up responsibility. So what I feel is Swamiji meant by saying, when a person goes speaks about responsibility but he doesn't take anything at home.
What I understood when Swamiji told that whatever is your thoughts become words and words become action is, like, whatever you really cognize, from whichever context you cognize, that will be like, from that context only you will speak, and from that context only you'll even act. How much ever a person might speak about so many different things, but from the context of just like from any wrong context, from any other vested interest, then that will be the same thing even in his actions also. Whereas when a person, whether he speaks or not, when he has the right context within him, then automatically all his actions will also be automatically aligned to that context only. So what I feel is the context and the decision to do it is what matters the most.
Just adding a point, like how she told that the context matters the most. In one satsang, Swami told, when he is speaking about Bhagavad Gita, he told that the first, when Krishna starts speaking itself, the first thing which comes out is Sankhya Yoga, because Krishna is full of Sankhya Yoga. That's why even when you open the mouth, the first thing which comes out is Sankhya Yoga. That's why the thoughts in which he was having, the context in which he was functioning, the same thing came out when he was speaking to somebody else. But in the case of what Swami told today, is basically he just speaks just for the sake of speaking. It's like just the words, not the thoughts or the context itself.
Adding a point, what I also feel is that like when people speak without having the cognition inside them, then it's all just like planned. It's more of planned, and it'll never convey the whole message to the other person. That's why when people who are just talking like just as words, they're not even living that context, then you'll start getting bored. You'll just not be able to listen more than a few minutes. Whereas when a person is completely absorbed with that context, absorbed with that truth, when that person tells even just a few words, it'll inspire you and it'll just give a lot of self-drive to you. That's why whenever you listen to Swamiji, you'll just feel so inspired to live the truths, because he's completely living those truths. Whereas when someone else is coming and just giving you some lecture or something, you'll never be able to live it if they're not living the context.
What I feel is like how Swamiji told, when you're seeking towards something, you're just flowing in that love. So when you just flow in that love, that is the greatest thing you can experience in your life. Like how Swamiji told, if you want to come to the Nithyananda Inner Awakening happening in this December, like if you just have the context that you have to experience the seeking which Swamiji is giving, that context is enough, and you just don't need anything else. Nothing is being equal to that, and just if you have that context, you will be able to make it, and you will just experience that seeking.
With this, we come to the conclusion of today's Vakyartha Sadhas. We will explore into more deeper truths in further Vakyartha Sadhas. Now we will conclude the Purna Mantra.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sadguru Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam.